Everybody knows that there's a significant difference between the rate of progress and the size of rewards in a video game and in real life. It's one of those things that's just an obvious fact on the face of things. We know that things move quicker in a video game, generally speaking. We know that you're going to get better at skills much quicker in the game. We know that you're going to get bigger rewards for smaller tasks. It's part of moving the game forward. It's part of making sure that everything occurs within a reasonable time frame and you're not just playing the game for your entire life. But I think a lot about the relationship between reality and video games, right? Because to some extent, they are a simulation of reality. Video games are some sort of a projection of an element of your real life into a magnified, kind of exaggerated artistic form, you know? Even if it's the most fantastical game you've ever played, it is somehow related to your experiences as a human in the real world. So today I really want to dive into the reward side of this. I want to think a lot about and discuss a lot about the rewards that we receive in games and then the rewards that we receive in real life as game developers, as creative people, and just in day-to-day life. And I'm wondering what it would be like to make a game that is intentionally minimally rewarding. What would be the line? Where is the line for this is still a good game despite the fact that it is barely rewarding you? This is Game, Develop, Repeat. I'm your host, Chris. Thank you for joining us. When I try to think of a game that doesn't give you a lot of rewards, at first I think of something like Dark Souls, something that's just difficult, or like an old school arcade game. Preferably something that doesn't give you any kind of items, any kind of cosmetics, any kind of stat increases. It's just difficult. It's just a difficult game. And I think the essence of this would be something like Getting Over It, like a Bennett Foddy game, something that's just extremely difficult for the sake of being difficult. And the opposite of this would be an RPG where you get a ton of experience, level up very quickly, get tons and tons of rewards. Maybe even something like RuneScape, where it's just a grind fest and you get something new every however often, every hour or so. Maybe not RuneScape once you get into the deep game, but the early phases of one of these very grindy games where it's just level up, level up, level up over and over and over for not really doing any kind of a challenging activity. And it's interesting to me that both of these types of games exist and are both fun, right? Because I think I take for granted this idea, or I sometimes believe this idea, that games are mostly driven by the player's excitement about making progress. That most games fundamentally are about getting better, about moving forward, about learning something, about making progress, and the feeling you get when you make progress, when you get better at something, when you learn something new, that little light bulb moment, that little moment of accomplishment of I finished this task. I tend to think that that is the fundamental feeling driving the enjoyment of games. And when I look at something like a Bennett Foddy game, like QWOP or Getting Over It, I go, maybe that's not the case. But then I start arguing with myself and I go, maybe it is. Maybe it's just a longer term payoff and the reward is I did this difficult thing. It's not an item. It's not a level up. It's not anything. It's like speed running. The reward for speed running is not any different, is very different from the reward for just playing a game normally. You play the game normally, you explore new things, you discover things, you learn about the world, you unlock new things, you get more powerful, you beat bosses, you uncover the entire story. The reward for speedrunning is, look at how good I am at this. And isn't that interesting that you can do this with the game and tweaking it and learning all of these little micro skills and all of these strange things that you can do within a game. That's a very different sort of reward, though. But my question for you is, and I want you to think through this for yourself because I wonder whether or not I'm actually onto something here. Are those both the feeling of, are those rewards both in essence about making progress? Is it all about getting better at a thing? Is it the same fundamental thing? Is learning to speed run working from the same deep feeling of getting better at a thing that making progress in an RPG is working from? Or is the main source of fun from making progress in an RPG the story that you're experiencing? Maybe this is just that I focus on this particular element way more than most gamers, and maybe that can be part of my development personality. Maybe that's something that I lean into when I make games, although I do also love a good story. I really love a good story, and boy, I don't like a bad story, but that's not what today's episode is about. I suspect that there is a commonality to all games. Now, I don't think that we can just find some magic formula. I don't think we can say, oh, this is exactly how you make a great game. But I think we can look at elements that are really important to all games. And I think that rewards are one of those elements. I cannot think of a game that is not rewarding, an enjoyable game that is not rewarding. Every game has something about it that makes you go, yeah, I did that. I accomplished that. I saw the end of the story. I got the achievement. I beat the boss. Even if there's not a reward in game, I found out the secret to beating this boss. I figured out the strategy. I got to level 99 despite the grind taking me 2 years. Whatever it may be, there's a reward. And I think that that is one of the fundamental things in games that is a profound driving force behind everything in gaming. There's an argument to be made for just exploration and discovery and immersing yourself into another world, but I can't help but feel like the most core thing, at least for me, specifically for me, in whether or not I enjoy a game is whether or not I feel that I have made some kind of progress. It cannot feel stagnant. When I think about the moments in a game that I get most frustrated, it is the moment when I'm repeating the same thing over and over and making no progress. It is when I'm banging my head against a wall to try to resolve something or going, I can't figure out what the developer was thinking with this puzzle and I have to mind read because this doesn't work the way that the real world works. So I just have to figure out what they intended, even though I have no way of knowing what they intended, right? When the game is communicating unclearly, and then I go, well, I'm not learning anything. I'm not making any progress. I'm not discovering anything. That's why I think this is so fundamental for me. Why did I start thinking about this episode? I always ask myself this question. Why did this episode happen this week? I think it's because I've been playing a game where I'm not 100% happy with the gameplay loop that I'm going through, but then it keeps giving me rewards, and then I was thinking about the rewards, and I was like, these don't feel that satisfying. They're not paying off. I don't feel like I'm really getting progress out of them. I feel like if I didn't do this stuff, I would still be kind of in the same spot. This is a problem I run into with RPGs. If the rewards are stacking up to the point where you're just so excuse me, I'm sorry. Where you're just so powerful that you can just annihilate everything, then more rewards on top of that, they don't really feel that good because you're already so powerful. Any additional stuff you get doesn't matter. So now you need late game challenges, so on and so on and so on. I think that's what brought it to mind. But now let's think about this in terms of developing a game. And I don't mean specifically how to structure the rewards in whatever game I'm developing, but just big picture. How does this relate to the kind of game that I want to make? How does this relate to how I feel about making a game? Because I have a surprising amount of like philosophical thoughts about this. This is a strangely deep topic for me. So let's just get into that. developing a game has not very much in common with playing a game. A lot of the times people will get into developing games because they love playing games and they go, I want to make that. Let's find out if I like it. And then the wiser people among us go, oh, turns out I don't like it. It's nothing like playing a video game. I'm out of here. Never doing that again. And then some of us go, I really want to make a game though. So I'm going to keep at this. And some of us just love doing it. You get lucky, you go, I wonder if making a game is any fun. I've been playing these games and I really like them. And then you try making one, you go, well, this is completely different and kind of miserable. And I'm banging my head against a wall because I can't get this thing to print hello world. But I'm kind of excited about this. I don't know. Something about this is kind of fun. There's those people too. And that's nice. Now, there is some similarity between developing a game and playing a game. You have these moments, these brief level up kind of moments where you go, ooh, boom, light bulb, right? Nice clicks, nice instantaneous hits of good feeling where you go, I figured it out. I guess dopamine hits might be the phrase, where you get to go, I got further. I took a step forward. I made progress. This is awesome. That's similar to a video game in a lot of ways. And it happens pretty often when you're programming. It's not every 10, 20 minutes like it is when you're playing an RPG, but it's pretty often. And you can get so deep into the weeds, you can get so deep into the flow that it feels like it's happening constantly. It feels like it's one thing after another, after another, after another. You get that reward structure, you get that rush, you get that flow, you get that excitement about seeing how far you can take it, how many quests you can resolve in one day. How many of those rewards can you get? Can you get this art asset imported? Can you figure out how to do this animation? Can you figure out this quest structure, this dialogue thing? Can you make this UI element look slightly less terrible? And then from there, can you make it look okay and maybe even good? It's exciting. It's rewarding. Still, in a way that a lot of things aren't. It's sort of an odd thing. It's a strange little difference between programming and playing games and a lot of other activities which are much more flat, much more smooth curves where eventually every once in a while you get a light bulb moment. You have something that you struggle with for weeks or even months, and you go, oh, now I understand. In programming, you can have multiple, now I understands within a day. You could have a whole bunch of them, and it's kind of got the same feeling as a level up, which is interesting. But now I'm trying to think, what other activities do that? I mean, if you really pay attention to the world around you while you're enjoying something, if you're really locking in while you're going on a hike, you can have that moment. You can look at a flower and go, oh my God, that's so beautiful. And you can connect to that and enjoy that. You can see an animal pass by. You can listen to the sounds around you. You can have these, maybe not puzzle solving moments, but these exploration moments, these little hits of dopamine, these little hits of reward just from existing, just from going about the world. But it's not that common. And it's easy, so easy, to drown it out completely. To just have so much noise or so many different things going on all at the same time where you miss those moments entirely. You don't notice the little bits of experience and level ups that you're getting in your normal day-to-day life. You don't get those little moments of joy, those hits of excitement, because you're too busy getting bigger hits of excitement from something on your phone, which is fair enough, but they're often very incomplete, right? And when developing a game, are those complete hits of excitement or are they very incomplete? I'm trying to think about this. I think they're pretty full because I think it has a lot to do with me learning something, me discovering something about myself or the way that I think while I make something, learning that I can do this, discovering what I am capable of, rather than just seeing something interesting. There's something beautiful about that moment where you go, oh, I can do this. Oh, oh, I can do this. I figured this out. As opposed to the moment where you go, whoa, that's really cool, which is also amazing. And I think that's why I get so excited about this progress mindset in a game. This element of getting better, of moving forward, of growth, of not necessarily discovery, but of some kind of progress. There is the element of just, oh wow, that's amazing. Like spectacles. I had a great time with a spectacle in a game recently. Final Fantasy 16 had a spectacle the likes of which I've never enjoyed before. It was incredible. I really enjoyed one of the boss fights in that game and the lead up into it. It was one of my favorite moments in gaming to date, and I've been playing games since I was like 5 years old. It's been a long time coming, and I loved that moment. But spectacle's usually not why I play a game. I even get annoyed at it sometimes. I go, oh, there's just this rule of cool. Everything's so epic. Oh, big music. Okay, cool, but I'm not invested. In that game, I was invested because I felt like I was developing some skills throughout the whole thing. Spectacle can feel empty to me, is what I'm getting at. But progress, rewards, intrinsic rewards, rewards that I am getting, that not that my character is getting, which I think I mentioned in a previous episode, those kind of rewards really do it for me. And this is the part that I think this whole episode is about for me personally, right here. This is the moment that I'm recording this for. I think that this informs my personality as a developer. I think that this informs what I want to create in the long run. Not every project will be based on these kind of things, but I think that fundamentally I want the games that I make to have some kind of a intrinsic reward, some invitation to inspect some part of yourself and learn about it, some invitation to develop a skill. But as I'm saying this right now, in this moment, I'm thinking about the projects I'm working on, and I go, maybe that's not what I actually want to do. Because I'm thinking about the fish dating game that I'm working on, and I'm going, yeah, but that's not really about developing a skill personally. That's more about doing like an interesting little parody and taking a shot at something and making people laugh and having some comedy. But then I think about it more and I go, yeah, but isn't that kind of an invitation to investigate yourself? Isn't the idea of this like dark, kind of satirical, very morbid, pessimistic dating app game, isn't that sort of an invitation to look at your own perspectives on dating apps and whether you look at it hopefully or negatively and whether or not you are kind of having a, how do I put this? Whether or not you're getting suckered into something or whether you agree or disagree with me with whatever I end up presenting. By the way, I don't know if that's the exact angle that this game is going to take, but it is a big part of the inspiration is this very like positive but also pessimistic style. This style that's like, oh, look at how bright and shiny and cheerful and wonderful this is. Isn't it so distracting from your reality? And then the more you play it, the more you go, oh, these people on this, these fish on this app, they kind of suck. Or like, I'm just kind of not having a good time with this and having the weird interactions with them. Anyway, that doesn't really feel like it's about building intrinsic skills. But it does fulfill part of my philosophy somehow. There's an element of this that I think about a lot. And this is going to be a bit of a tangent. So please forgive me on this one. I think a lot about ethics in game development. And nobody wants to have this conversation probably, so I'm going to keep it very brief. Ethics in game development are important to me because I think that they make games better and more enjoyable in the long run and more sustainable and all of these different things, and they improve people's lives. The point of caring about ethics when you're making a game is to make sure that the game is helping more than it's hurting, I guess. Let me give an example, because right now this all sounds very heady and stupid and pointless and egotistical. if a game is designed to just keep you addicted to it, you're not going to actually enjoy the game in the long run. You're going to kind of like enjoy it in that like, I don't know, sort of trashy way. Do you know what I'm talking about? When you eat way too much ice cream and you feel sick afterwards, you'll enjoy it that way. But long term, like you're not going to be satisfied with the game. You're not going to be happy that you played it. It's going to do some kind of a weird mix of good and harm to you. And I don't want games to be like puritanically positive. That's nonsense. We got to have a little trash in there. But I do think it's worth paying attention to, like, am I making a game that's just straight up addictive because I think it'll make me more money and I want to put people on this crazy treadmill of dopamine and like a hedonistic treadmill where it's just like you just keep trying to get better and better and better and better and better stuff and it never ends and there's never any satisfaction or joy in the end of the whole experience. I'm against that. I want to create experiences that have a sense of satisfaction and completion and joy at the end of them. And I think that is the kind of reward that I want to provide for people. I don't want it to be, you got a new piece of gear, you got a new piece of gear, you got a new cosmetic, you got a new this, you got a new that. No, I want to reward people for what they did. I don't want to reward their character for what they did. I want you to walk away from something I made, and go, I'm glad I played that. It kind of got me thinking. Or I'm glad I played that. That was a really nice reprieve from what I've been dealing with. Or just, I'm glad I played that. I don't know exactly why, but there's something about that just made me feel positive. And I think that's a very different, or even something about it that made me cry, or something about it that really hurt me, but I'm glad I experienced it. I think that is a very different feeling from, oh man, I got so much gear, and I'm really excited about that. And that's cool, by the way. That has its place, and I love it. I like a good grind, but it's not what I'm trying to do. I want to reward people. Yeah, I already said it. This is what it is. I want to reward the player, not their character. Here's a couple questions for you. Very similar to what I've talked about the whole episode, but let's close it out with these. First question, what keeps you playing a game? What kind of rewards keep you playing? Is it the exploration? Is it competition? We didn't even talk about that. Is it feeling like you're getting better? And does it connect with that theory I was talking about? Does it connect with this idea that progress is an extremely fundamental element of game design? What do you think about that? And then my second question is, what rewards leave you feeling satisfied? Not just what keeps you playing, but what leaves you with a sense of satisfaction? Like when I finished playing Celeste for the first time, I was satisfied. I was deeply satisfied. When I finished playing Spiritfarer for the first time, I was deeply satisfied. What is it that makes that happen? What is that for you? Because it's probably different for all of us. That's everything that I have for you this week. Thank you for joining me for this long sort of philosophy conversation where I'm trying to figure out my own game design philosophy. I hope that you found it useful. This one felt a little self-indulgent to me, although that often happens. There's something about just sitting in front of a microphone and talking for half an hour that makes you feel a little bit like, oh man, I'm really, boy, all right, well, I guess people want to hear this, so here we go. Hopefully it's useful to you. It helps me think through everything, honestly. It's really handy for me. I think by talking a lot, if you haven't noticed. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. Bye-bye.